Hi everyone, it's Kris, Hicks, Head of Press and Communications at UKIP. I'm joined once again by UKIP member Carl Benjamin. We're talking about the issues of the day. The next issue I think we need to talk about is very concerning, the potential for a war between India and Pakistan. This all started a couple of weeks ago where a suicide bomber in Kashmir, from the Pakistani side of Kashmir, basically murdered over 40 Indian paramilitary soldiers who were patrolling the region itself. This caused a reaction from India which led to a bombing of the Pakistani side of what is known as the line of control in Kashmir. There is no real agreed border between the two nations within Kashmir. It's referred to as the LOC, or line of control. This has now also led to an altercation between an F-16 jet operated by the Pakistani Air Force and a MiG-21, where both planes were destroyed. One, the Indian plane, the MiG-21, actually crashed on the Pakistani side, and one of the pilots survived. He is now being held effectively as a prisoner of war at this point. We've seen a lot of responses, firstly from the Indian government, who are really kind of right now seem to be ramping up the situation. Obviously, they've actually made the claim that this original suicide bomber was supported and organised by the Pakistani government. On the other side of things, indeed, the Pakistani government is alleging that the Indian government effectively undertook a false flag attack with this suicide bomber. So very serious claims on both sides of this. We're coming up to also an election in India. Some on the Pakistani side are claiming that the ruling party is kind of building this up just to make them kind of look strong. Yeah. I know the Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan has asked for talks on this front. But certainly the most critical thing, certainly for the world, is that these are two nuclear-armed powers. Approximately, I believe they're fielding about 130 nuclear warheads in their arsenals. So very developed nuclear arsenals. And we've so far had Donald Trump basically calling, well, actually taking in many ways a side with India on all of this. And Britain's own statement has been kind of very neutral. But no, very disturbing and a controversial development. What do you think of that?
So I think that one of the major concerns for people in Britain is going to be the large Hindu and Pakistani diasporas that we have here. We have the most number of Indians outside of India of anywhere in the world here. And we've obviously got large Pakistani communities, and often they live quite cheek to jowl with one another. And usually, with a fair amount of tolerance, but I imagine this is probably going to inflame ethnic tensions, and I don't really know what can be done about it. But I imagine that if anything can be categorized as a hate crime, then hate crimes will come out of this, on both sides as well. I mean, there are probably people who are going to suggest that it's only one way, and no, it's not. It definitely goes both ways on this.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, there is a history to this as well. I mean, there's been a number of Pakistan-India wars. Most of them occurred before Pakistan or India had nuclear weapons, but the last war, the full-scale war to occur, was what is known as the Kargil War, which also started in Kashmir. This was in 1999. The difference was that while India had nuclear weapons, Pakistan had only just developed them. So there was, if there was to be a nuclear engagement, it would be fairly limited in the sense of a nuclear engagement, as serious as that would be. But in terms of the full-scale nuclear application, that is the major concern. And I think the other concern is that this time around, rather than the United States really kind of getting very much involved and using their diplomatic resources to kind of calm things down, there's a lot going on right now on the world stage. Of course, Mr. Trump is now in Vietnam speaking to Kim Jong-Un. Of course, with Britain, we're dealing with Brexit. Yeah. Is the West actually able, does it have the time, does it have the resources to pay attention to this and possibly calm this potential conflict down?
Well, I think I think that the important thing is for Western powers to make sure that the existential nature, the war doesn't become an existential one, because that's what will escalate things to require the use of nuclear weapons. You know, and that's why every rogue regime around the world wants nuclear weapons, because they're afraid that the West and America is going to invade, knock off their government, and then replace them with whatever puppet, as we've done before. So that's why they want nuclear weapons. I would imagine that if it doesn't look like, you know, 1,000 Indian tanks are going to approach Islamabad, then they won't feel the need to use nuclear weapons. So basically, all we can really do is urge restraint, I would say. But like I said, I'm not an expert on this bit, so.